have no idea what we're doing. And then it comes back into a much lower registry, and he has laid on him, Jesus, the iniquity of us all, and which is the essence of the gospel. It brings home the incomprehensible the incomprehensible sense that the Lord has laid the world's sin on Jesus. And
he was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter. There's a juxtaposition. We're sheep that are going astray, and he's a sheep going to slaughter. And as a sheep before its shears is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Echoes of Pilate and Jesus refusing to answer. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand.
So that seems to me to speak of the resurrection, prolonging his days.
Yes.
And that was new information to me. After I had read that, I hadn't made that connection before.
That's good. One thing that's hitting me is I'm thinking of how does somebody in the 700 BC interpret this? And I think if it were me, I would think this is what God has done to us. We felt disfigured. We suffered. We were dragged away against our will when the Assyrians or the Babylonians came. And yet everything is made right and atoned for, which is almost like the exile in return. Exile suffering in return is like a foreshadowing of the ultimate exile, Jesus being exiled from heaven and killed, and then the return, the ultimate fulfillment in the resurrection, like you're saying. It's interesting that he has all this offspring now. So Jesus had no children. So what are the offspring here? Fortunately, that's next week, so we'll find that out. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong. So suddenly we're getting into the plunderer again, which is interesting.
Yeah, we're back to the plundering, Bart.
Yeah, post-resurrection plundering.
Yes.
Because he poured out his life unto death and was numbered with the transgressors. Certainly think about the two guys on crosses next to him. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors.
I didn't realize Isaiah laid out so overtly about a coming Savior. And so for me, this was very enlightening to be able to see this step by step, why the Jews were waiting for a Redeemer.
It's just so bizarre. 700 years beforehand, this description of what's going to happen, and it's hard not to take it the other way.
I in some of my research and in some of the prior chapters, I think 40, 41, maybe 42, it talks about Cyrus, coming out of Persia and taking over the Babylonians. And I think the historian Josephus speaks about, it's my understanding, that Cyrus was shown Isaiah and it was part of what convinced him,
Oh my gosh.
and converted him.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that it was written by the person Isaiah, the name Cyrus mentioned, and then here comes an actual Cyrus. Yeah, that is incredible. And wouldn't that be trippy to see your name
Yeah,
written and then to be motivated to let the people return, let the remnant return.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's some previous verses that talk about you gave up your life for nothing and you will be redeemed without money. And and it speaks to Cyrus sending out Ezra and Nehemiah with a whole bunch of resources. So
Yes.
the
Interesting.
Israelites are blessed with all kinds of stuff to be able to rebuild.
Yeah, rebuild the temple, rebuild the walls of the city.
Mhm.
So so you're saying Josephus interprets the history, and probably he's probably uh, communicating something that a lot of the first century Jews believe on what happened historically with Cyrus.
Yes.
That is so cool. That's very cool.
That the actual full book of Isaiah, the first half and the second half, was fully written prior to Cyrus doing his thing, Persia taking over Babylonia and the Babylonian Empire, and so then he's shown these writings.
Yeah, that's interesting. It talks about how these Isaiah's words get sealed, and maybe the unsealing of his prophecies is for the purpose of Cyrus seeing it. And imagine being a Jew in captivity and saying, "Oh my gosh, this sealed prophecy is talking about the guy who just conquered our oppressors, and he's bringing us back," and the wonder that they must have felt. That's a beautiful thought.